Hey guys, in this video we're going to talk about a feature called Async Await, which is actually part of the ES7 or ES 2016 standard, but it is fully implemented in Chrome. I'm not exactly sure about all of the other browsers. If you are going to use this in a production project, you may want to compile your code, your ES7 down to ES5. But again, you may want to check on that, and I will be showing you how to do that using Webpack and Babel later on. Alright, so what I have is just our standard JavaScript sandbox HTML file, no body, just linking the app.js, which is empty. So what I want to do here is I want to create a function. So I'm just going to say function, and we'll just call it myfunc. Alright, and let's just return hello. Alright, so nothing special here. If we were to console.log myfunc and save, let's go ahead and open this HTML with our live server. Open up the console, and no surprise, we just get hello. So with async await, what we do is we add async to the beginning of the function, and just doing that makes this function return a promise. So let's go ahead and save this and see what happens. So notice that it's no longer just returning the string hello, it's returning an actual promise. So we can now get rid of that, and we can say myfunc, and we can add on .then because it's now returning a promise. And here we'll pass in res for response, and then let's console.log our response, and we'll save, and now we get hello. Alright, so just adding this async makes this return a promise, which is really nice, instead of, wrapping this in return new promise and all that. So it's a really nice feature, even just async without await. Now if we do something asynchronous within here, we can use await to actually wait until that's resolved. So what I'm going to do here is create a new promise. I'm going to say promise equals new promise, and let's pass in an arrow function here, and that's going to take in resolve, reject, and then I'm going to do a set timeout. Okay, so let's say set timeout, we'll put an arrow function in here, and let's say resolve hello, and we'll do that after 1 second. Okay, and then down here we're going to say const res, and we're going to set this to await promise. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's going to wait until the promise is resolved, okay, which will be 1 second. And then let's go ahead and return res. Oops. All right, so let's see. We'll go ahead and save, and let's get rid of this and save. So 1 second, and then hello. All right, so it waits for the promise to be resolved until it actually sends the response. Now we can also throw errors. So let's actually create a variable here. We'll say error equals true. I'm just fabricating an error here. So we'll say if error, or if not error, then let's do this. And then if there is an error, what we can do is we can say await promise dot reject, and we can pass in here new error, and then a message. We'll just say something went wrong. Okay, and then down here we can just go .catch, like that. So now we'll save and we get our error, something went wrong. If I were to change this to false, there's no error, save, and after a second we'll get hello. Alright, so this might not be the best example, so what I'm going to do is comment this out. And I'm going to use it with fetch, which is probably the best case to use this async await. So let's say async function, and let's call this get users. Okay, so we want to create a variable, we'll call it response, and we'll set this to await fetch, and then we'll pass in this user's URL from JSON placeholder. Now usually we would have to do our .then, our two .thens and stuff like that, but now since we're using this await fetch, what we can do is we can create a variable called data or whatever you want to call it, and then say await response.json. Alright, and then we'll return the data. So in this case, we await the response of the fetch call. Alright, and in this case, we only proceed once it's resolved. Okay, once that promise is resolved. And then we only proceed once the second promise is resolved. Okay, so now we should be able to say get users, and we already have, we don't have to pass in the URL because we're hard coding it in here. So we should say get users dot then, and in here we should be able to say users or whatever we want to put here, and then console.log users. Let's save, let's go back, and you can see we're getting our 10 users. Alright, so this looks a little neater than doing the two .thens and all that stuff. So in the next video, what I want to do is reformat the easy HTTP library that we've been working on to use async await instead of wrapping it in a promise like we were doing. Alright, so we'll do that in the next video.